Imagine being in a coma for 7 days, just 7 days. And when you wake up, you swear you lived through months and even years in a completely different world, where your journey through this world was so vivid and so detailed that it felt even more real than this world, the one you've been living your entire life in. Okay, so here are some of the questions that'll be answered in this video. First, why his journey or the recalling of his journey was so fascinating, and what type of challenges he had to confront both professionally and personally. And then we're gonna go over what happens to the brain when it comes to memories and trauma. Now, here's the crazy part. According to neuroscience, your neocortex is the very part of the brain that allows for memory, thought, and perception. And that part wasn't working during this coma. And yet you come back with an experience that seems like it far exceeded those 7 days that you were in a coma in a hospital. So that's exactly what happened to Eben Alexander. He's a neurosurgeon who had every reason to doubt an experience like this until it happened to him. And so the doctors that tended to him really just chalked up his experience to, the dying brain can play tricks on you or whatever. And by the way, he only had a 2% chance of survival. But Eben Alexander did not want to let this go. He wanted to figure out what happened, trying to look further into something that kind of went against science. So now, what happens when a neurosurgeon tries to confront everything that happened that goes against science, goes against everything he was taught to believe? Now we'll get into what happened when he woke up. He wanted to dive in deeper to how this unexplainable journey could have happened. And by the way, when he wanted to do that, a lot of people were telling him that he was committing professional suicide by trying to look further into this. And so I'm going to consult all the little notes I took on this book. Okay, so when he woke up from his coma, he said that he was accompanied by a woman who he didn't recognize. This woman, he said, just radiated this immense love and kind of gave him all the reassurance that he needed. Now, fast forward a few years where he met some birth relatives of his, and they ended up showing him a bunch of pictures. And in one of those pictures was his birth sister, who was already deceased. And he immediately recognized her as the companion he had during his journey while he was in a coma. Now, do you have to believe this? No. Could it be a trick of the dying brain, like doctor said? Sure. But I will say that I've come across plenty of people, and it's happened to me too. If you really think about it, you've probably had dreams like this where it's happened, where you wake up thinking about someone and this person was just in your dream and they stood out and you remember every detail about them. And then at some point, a few weeks later, a month later or something, either you're introduced to them or they come to work at your job and it's possibly happened to you. Maybe you didn't remember it. Maybe you didn't recognize the person, but I feel like that's something that happens. Okay, so now here's the fascinating part of his journey, because it's all like, okay, sure, yeah, he went on this journey, he came back, sure, his neocortex was not functioning, it didn't work, and whatever, this stuff just happens. But the fascinating part about all of this is that when he woke up, he very vividly remembered this journey that he took, right? During those 7 days in a coma. Yet he couldn't remember any details of his life here on Earth. And that's how he put it. He had no personal memories of having ever lived on planet Earth. And he said that even words and language were wiped out when he woke up. And only a few hours later did they start to come back to him. And so that's the part that makes it so fascinating for me, because there was obviously something to this journey that he took, that he remembers it so vividly, yet he couldn't remember his regular life. And then over the next few weeks, his regular memories started coming back. Okay, so we're going to consult my notes again about some of the challenges that come with brain injury or brain illness and memories. So in his book, he talks about how in neuroscience, when there is a brain illness, new memory formation is a demanding process. When it comes to recalling memories, older memories are easier because they're already formed or set memories. And short-term memories starting from after the brain injury, trauma, or illness is harder. And that's why sometimes when people have brain injuries or illnesses, they remember something from childhood or, high school or something like that. But when it comes to remembering short-term memories, like what you had for breakfast or who came to visit them at the hospital, they have a harder time recalling that. But what makes his journey and him remembering his journey so fascinating is that he says that the memories never faded. He said even years later, he could still remember all the vivid detail from his journey. And of course, he's trying to make the point that this happened after his illness and that the memory of this journey didn't fade the way normal memories do, where we know memories are malleable, so they change with experience and time. So that didn't happen with this. In any case, he says that when he woke up, he did have two sets of memories, right? One set of memories from his journey while he was in a coma, and the others were from after he woke up. He had these intense nightmares. The nightmares seemed to have faded fast, but again, his journey stayed with him. Okay, so now with all these different components, Eben Alexander's experience could be categorized as a near-death experience. And now that makes him want to go off and learn about similar accounts, the experiences that other people have had just like this. Now, there's this book that I have called The Encyclopedia of Death and Life in the Spirit World, and it dates back to the late 1800s. It is a massive collection of firsthand accounts, letters, testimonials of experiences just like this. People who have claimed they have experienced the moment of death and then come back from it. And this is long before we even had a term or a word or a phrase for near-death experiences. Now, the phrase itself, near-death experience, was coined by Dr. Raymond Moody, who published his book Life Afterlife in 1975. And in that, he had grouped together all the different commonalities of people's experiences, such as things like leaving your body, traveling through a tunnel, seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, meeting loved ones that have already passed. So when Eben Alexander started looking into these reported cases of near-death experiences, he was stepping into a field that already had tons of research behind it. It had been built for over a century. And that's why I bring up the book, The Encyclopedia of Death, because this just goes to show that we've been having these experiences since way before science had a say in it. Way before modern medicine, EKG machines, resuscitation science. So in my next video, I'm going to go over that book, The Encyclopedia of Death and Life in the Spirit World, and show you some of those early accounts and the similarities between those experiences and the experiences we have now. And then you'll see how deep and far back this all really goes.